Hello and welcome to the Day Ahead. It is Thursday, December the 11th. I'm Andrew Gagan. Well, the local market is set to open high with ASX futures up more than 0.9%. This after the US Federal Reserve cut interest rates by 25 basis points, but it was a divided decision.
Conditions in the labour market appear to be gradually cooling, and inflation remains somewhat elevated. In support of our goals, and in light of the balance of risks to employment and inflation, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to lower our policy interest rate by a quarter percentage point.
The Fed's so-called dot plots has revealed 6 policymakers wanted no cut at this meeting, with projections showing the median policymaker sees just 1/4 percentage point cut in 2026.
I would note that having reduced our policy rate by 75 basis points since September and 175 basis points since last September, the Fed funds rate is now within a broad range of estimates of its neutral value, and we are well positioned to wait to see how the economy evolves. Interestingly, everyone around the table at the FOMC agrees that inflation is too high and that we want it to come down, and agrees that the labor market has softened and that there's further risk. Everyone agrees on that. Where the difference is how do you weight those risks, and what does your forecast look like, and where do you, ultimately where do you think the bigger risk is?
Well, Fed Chair Jerome Powell noted that near-term risks were tilted to the upside for inflation, but tilted to the downside for employment.
The baseline expectation for next year is, at least at the Fed, and I think with outside forecasters too, is a pickup in growth from today's relatively low level of 1.7%.
Policymakers raised their expectations for 2026 GDP growth to 2.3% in September and maintained for an estimate for unemployment at the end of next year at 4.4%. After the statement, traders are pricing in a 78% chance the Fed would hold rates steady in January. And US Treasury yields extended declines after the Fed cut, but signalled it will likely hold off on further cuts. The US 10-year falling to 4.16%, the 2-year down to 3.56%. Meanwhile, the Bank of Canada has left its rates on hold. The US dollar lost ground against peers immediately after the Fed announcement. The Aussie dollar having climbed to almost its highest level of the year against the greenback at 66.8. Well, prior to the Fed decision, global stocks were mostly higher, although the split decision appears to have created uncertainty about monetary policy. The projections and the lack of an overly hawkish tone from the statement drew US investors into the equity market, with the S&P leading gains along with the Russell. Following Chair Jerome Powell's press conference, Wall Street's major indices all finished higher. The tech and communication services sector were the biggest drags on the broader market prior to that decision, with investors awaiting results from Oracle, which reported after the bell. They were anticipating strong growth amid demand for Oracle's cloud services. However, it missed Wall Street estimates for second quarter revenue, a sign that corporate spending on its cloud services may be cooling amid broader concerns of a bubble in the AI market, shares falling more than 5% in extended trade. Elsewhere, shares in energy equipment manufacturer GE Vernova surged more than 15% after forecasting higher revenue in 2026. Shares of online pet retailer Chewy slumped as it forecast net sales below analyst estimates, and US-listed shares of BHP and Rio both tracked the higher price of copper. Well, oil prices have risen after officials said the US had seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, adding to concerns about immediate supplies. Brent crude futures rising above $62 a barrel. Copper was up more than 0.5%. Iron ore little changed at 104 US a tonne, and gold reversed course after the Fed rate cut. Spot gold at around $4,230 an ounce, while silver hit another all-time peak at almost $62 an ounce, with the price having surged more than 110% so far this year. And Bitcoin is trading just below 93,000 US dollars. Locally today, we get the jobs data for November, and CBA releases its household spending insights. On the corporate calendar, Westpac is due to hold its AGM along with Myer. That is your day ahead. We'll see you again tomorrow.